welcome back to the Take 3 Theological Variety Hour. We hope you all had a wonderful Christmas break and a happy new year. It is now a new year and a new decade. So we're going to do a slightly different format this episode. Previously, we'd been splitting us up into 3 subjects an episode, and then some episodes were getting quite lengthy. So we're just going to be tackling one thing today. It is appropriate for the new year and the new decade. And this is the importance of having goals. This was a subject that was suggested by Erica in our group chat, and I got very excited about it. So first, I'm going to hand this over to Erica. Erica, what do you have for us on goals today?
Okay, so hi, everybody. It's good to have you back. It's 2020. I'm so excited about that because it's an entirely new decade. And I don't know if those of you 80s or 70s, Seth, 70s. Oh, wait, Christine's a 70s baby, too. Am I the only 80s child?
I am not.
Tough room
I am
in
1980.
Here.
Seth is the only 70s baby, the old man. But you and I'm 1980.
All right. Wow. Yes. All right. So Seth is the only one that can't be technically an 80s baby. My husband's not an 80s baby either, so they can go sit in a room by themselves. But for you 80s children, and I guess you 70s children, you probably remember sci-fi from when we were kids, and we're already past years that they were saying we would have flying cars and whatnot. So kind of excited to be in 2020. And, you know, who doesn't want 2020? 2020 vision is perfect. So I'm hoping that this year is going to be, at least personally, better than some of the past years have been. Last couple of years have been a little rocky. I don't know how it's been for you guys. So let's see how we do. But today, I wanted to talk to you guys about goals from the perspective of being a parent and specifically a mom, because I have found that since becoming a mom and having my own family, the challenges of having goals, maintaining sanity, which I have not, I have found this to be particularly tough versus when I was single. I am not saying that being single does not come with its own challenges. I am not saying that, but it's very different for me than it was when I was single. When I was single, or even when Rob and I were married, I was able to move ahead with my own goals in my own time without having to take other people that depended on me into consideration. And so this becomes much, much more difficult, those of you who are parents and take your parenting seriously, than when you were by yourselves. So I have basically 3 points that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to go over them. And then maybe if Seth and Christine have anything to throw in, I know Christine is going to talk about goals, but even from their perspective, because we're all in different places, to see if any, some of this might ring true for them as well. So the first one is kind of weird. We're talking about goals. We're talking about the new year. I am notorious, ask any of my friends, I hate New Year's resolutions. And I guess I hate them because if you look at the media, we put all of this emphasis on January 1st, I'm going to have a new life and new year, new me, new year, new you. I don't know. What the heck is that saying? Anyway, and I think this is actually something that we can do year round. You don't need January 1st as a turning point to change things about you that you're unhappy with. You can actually do this all year, and it's maybe even better if you do it all year. It's not an emphasis on one point in time as being the turning point in your life. Any day can be the turning point in your life. And so I think what galls me about New Year's resolutions is that it's the same time every year. And if you look at the statistics, most people who make New Year's resolutions do not keep them because we're focusing on something that we should be doing instead of thinking about why we need to do it. So, as I said, my first one is kind of odd. And the first one is going to be, God made you as is. I am a very, very firm believer that all of us were put here, A, with purpose. No, I don't believe in predestination. And B, I would not use the word perfection, but I would say that I do not believe God makes mistakes. And the negative things that have happened in your life, certainly the negative things that speaking about myself, the negative things that have happened in my life have all been extremely purposeful in getting to the point where I am at today. And if I took some of those away, I would not be the Erica that I am right now. So things happen in time, and when they happen in time is purposeful, and what happens to you is purposeful. And I know I have colleagues that totally disagree with me in theology. For me, suffering is purposeful, and suffering is a moment linked to humanity where we discover who we are. So God made you as is. That's not to say that you cannot make yourself a better self, but there's a difference between optimizing yourself and looking to be a different person entirely. You were made to be you, and that's what God had intended. And who that is, who you are, who you believe you are, is really between you and God. So you don't have to come and talk to any of us about that. And I think you'll also be happier when you find acceptance and balance about who you are. So what triggers this when we're talking about moms and parenting? Well, I'll tell you what, and I think any mom that is listening to this can probably instantly agree with this, that when you had that little one, you did not recognize the person you were afterwards. The person you had become physically, emotionally, was almost gone. And so you probably had to work on reconquering that person back. I know physically, wow, not that I ever had a six-pack, but let me tell you, that is off the table right now, friends. So it's just not something that's going to happen. So part of it, acceptance, I'm accepting that I am a mom, that I am different, that my body is different than what it used to be, but it's definitely not without purpose. In a different way, I also have some genetic, I guess you could say, deficiencies. So I have some autoimmune problems. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And then I found out as I was having my daughter that I have Sjogren's. And I've also had other things pop in and out between those times. Well, that led to surgeries. I have a lot of scars. And I always had people saying to me, oh gosh, those must really bother you. Heck no, they don't bother me. Those are like badges of honor. I was in pain before those surgeries. And so it changes your perspective. I guess before I had them as a teenager, I might have said to you, oh my gosh, I don't want to look like that. But time changes a lot of things. And so over time, I have begun to come to a place where I am accepting my as is status that God had given me, and to find purpose and intention in all of these things that happened. So moms, I know you are struggling, and I feel you, and it's very, very difficult. But stop looking backwards at the past of who you were and find your as is right now. So that's number one. Number two, perfection is a sickness. Yes, perfection is a sickness. First of all, it's not possible. We're not born to be perfect. We're human. We're fallen. We're sinful. We are damaged. I don't care whether you use theological, philosophical, streetwise terms. It does not matter. You can talk about Snoop and be fahizzle for all I care, but you are not perfect, and it's not possible. God didn't make us perfect. Didn't make us perfect. God is perfection. God is completion. So just deal with that right there. Okay, off the table. Second, perfection is almost like an addiction. In your mind, you can obsess about perfection. You can obsess about the fact that your house isn't as clean as you want it to be, that you did not get all of the things done for your kids, that you forgot that you forgot what week it is, and you sent your child to school dressed for Spirit Week all week in crazy mismatched clothes, and it was the following week. Yes, folks, I actually did that. But she laughed about it. And so the folly, the imperfection actually became more beautiful than the perfection itself. Brokenness and imperfection is amazing because then we see how we're human. And humanity is exactly what God wanted to create. So don't be upset about your imperfect life that you lead, because you can find really amazing things in it. Finally, dealing with perfection, I would say, but don't confuse it with, having a green light to be lazy either. That's not what we're saying. I am saying, though, find a balance and maybe find a place where you can forgive yourself and let go of all of those silly things that you might have made parenting mistakes on. And don't seek out that perfection, but find beauty in the imperfection. Your kids are probably laughing about things that you're freaking out about. The third one, and probably the most important in terms of action, is finding a place where you can reach your goals and understand your goals and feel accomplished. So a place of goals and accomplishments. And this is the one that I struggle with the most. I think I've worked a lot on the other two, although sometimes I'm still a perfectionist. But goals and accomplishments, wow, when you have a family and you went from having your own set of goals, short-term and long-term, and you knew what you had to do and everything was this clear path, all of a sudden you have little ones that have fractured that path into a bazillion different directions. And then you have a partner or a spouse who also requires some of your attention. That's difficult. It's much, much harder, I find now, than ever before. And especially when it comes to accomplishments. I can set up my goals. Christine is going to tell you about her method, and she has talked to me a lot and been very helpful with setting up short-term, long-term goals through journaling and bullet points. But the bottom line is, for me, I have to feel that I've accomplished something to feel that I'm worthwhile as a person, that I am making progress, that I am on my path that God had put me on. And that's very difficult. So it's also difficult when your time is now everybody else's. Moms especially, and dads, I'm sorry I'm not addressing you, but I don't totally know what it's like to be a dad. But some of you that stay home with your kids, and maybe your wife works or your spouse works, probably feel the same thing. Your time is not your own. It doesn't matter if you're in the bathroom and somebody needs something. They don't care, especially 3-year-olds. They don't care. So time is different, and you have become beholden to other members of the family, especially the little ones. So you might be heading into this new year away from vacation thinking, oh, crap. Here comes the tidal wave of have-tos, of musts. He, she needs. School is demanding your attention. Work is demanding your attention. Your house is a mess. Your Christmas decorations aren't put away. There's a bazillion things, right, that are going wrong in your life. Oh my gosh, another kid got sick. Okay, stop. Take a deep breath and prioritize, because freaking out and panicking is not going to help your situation at all. And I'm going to be honest with you, parents, you're not going to get it all done. That's acceptance. My room, I am staring at a mess right now. We redid our kids' room. We moved them back into their room. I have toys and books all over my bedroom floor. Acceptance. I wanted to get it all done, but I didn't. But just like I'm telling you now, you will have daily accomplishments. The fact is, they are in their room. We did finish enough for them to be happy and safe and to have a place to call their own that they're very, very excited about. That's an accomplishment. They're not looking at the books that are still sitting on the floor and going, oh, Mom, why didn't you get to those yet? No, it's simply not the case. So first, acceptance, and then take heart in your accomplishments, because on a daily basis, you are accomplishing something. It may not be exactly what you want or as much as you want, but you're accomplishing something. Finally, set short-term and long-term goals, because you know what your family needs, you know personally what you need, and you have to find balance. It's great to have goals for your kids. It is great to help your spouse find their goals, because sometimes they need you to help find their path. But you're still a person, and you're still a self, and your kids are going to be grown one day, and you are going to be wondering and needing to find yourself. So my recommendation is to start doing that now. They don't have to be realistic goals. They can be you can have one or two goals that are so far-fetched, but that's where your heart and your direction is taking you. And then you can have smaller goals that you can accomplish reasonably in a day or in a week. And all of those things are part of the journey of your life. And, mostly in this new year, don't forget to stop worrying and start taking time with your families to really enjoy them. Because too many people are going to lose children, parents, aunts, uncles this year, and they're going to say to themselves, man, I really wish I had fill in the blank. So those are kind of my recommendations. And finally, okay, repeat after me. I am a parent. I don't get everything done, but I do accomplish things, and we're surviving together. Through a balance of goals, we will find happiness, order, and love. All right, that's all I got. May the force be with you in this new year, but not the crappy force from the newest movie.
Was I supposed to say that too?
Amen. Are you a parent?
I'm a cat parent.
I guess.
You are. Yes, we share that. And cat parenting has its own tragedies. Like nobody caring about you and people whining for food.
And hairballs. I don't miss those. And kitty litter. I don't miss that either.
We have an elderly cat, so she's in a very particular place right now. She won't eat dry food. She will not eat wet food directly from the can. We have to take gravy cat food in the can. Those of you who are cat owners know the extra gravy ones, right? And add more water to that, and she basically drinks soup. So that's where I'm at with my 17-year-old cat.
Woohoo. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Erica. That was really, really good. And I know that we're going to have some listeners who will appreciate everything you just said. So I'm going to tackle one of the challenges I've had to deal with in my life is that for the longest time, I literally had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. You'd always be asked in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a fireman or a doctor? And I was like, I don't know. I'm interested in too many things. Everything's cool. I don't know what I want to be. Like, do I want to be an opera singer? Do I want to be a scientist? I don't know. And this persisted beyond when I was done with school and beyond college, which was a terrible thing because it meant I had no plans, no projects, no direction, nothing. I was spinning my wheels in place. And the year that I was sick didn't help with that. But I didn't make any progress, during all that downtime anyway. And I'd never learned how to figure out what my goals should be. For a long time, my goals were what other people thought they should be. And this is one of the hazards of growing up in latter half of the 20th century America is, for the most part, coming up when you're growing up, your goals are to graduate high school, go to college, graduate college with a degree. And those are your goals, and your schedule is set out for you. And you may have some choice in what electives you take, what language you study. But for the most part, it's all set out for you. And you may have some random classes in your time about, how to make plans. And maybe in Girl Scouts, they talk about, how to plan for things and take projects through from beginning to end, but it's never put in the greater context of, and here's how you apply this to the rest of your life once you graduate college. So I had to sort of figure this out on my own. And when I finally did, it made a massive change in my life. And that's why this subject is actually very important to me. I think I've mentioned before about the very lost place I was at several years after I was done with being sick. And I finally realized that I was spinning in place because I had no goal of my own. I was very busy all the time. I was not making progress with anything. I knew that I had stories that I wanted to tell. Like my father, I am a sort of natural born storyteller. But for some reason, I wanted to write, but I wasn't writing because I never had time to write. There were other things that I wanted to do with my life, making no progress on them because I wasn't setting aside any time for them. Instead, all my time was spent in various singing groups and charitable activities and endeavors, all of which were good. These were all good things. The chamber choirs and church choirs were wonderful, wonderful music, wonderful people. The charitable endeavors were doing really good work, and it took up so much of my time that I was just running around all the time, not doing anything for myself. And part of that, there was this hidden thing that I hadn't realized I was thinking. And I was thinking that if I do anything for myself, well, that's selfish. And I shouldn't be selfish. Everything I should do should be for others. And living for others is correct in the right context and not the context I was living it in. Jesus says very clearly at one point when the apostles ask him, what are the two greatest commandments? And the first one is, of course, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, body, mind, soul, etc., etc. And the second greatest commandment is you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And I was focusing on the love your neighbor part, but not on the as yourself part. And honestly, if I had been loving my neighbor as myself, it would have, at that point, I would have been a really wretched person. Because I wasn't respecting myself. I wasn't respecting the Christine that God made. I was respecting the Christine that everyone around me, including, religious figures and, religious guidance, was telling me I should be. And that's why I was spinning in place all the time. I was doing all this singing because, well, I got my degree in vocal music education. I have to put this voice to use. We've paid so much money for it, got to put it to use. And I should be spending all my time in charitable endeavors that had nothing to do with me, with my unique talents, my unique skills and loves. And so I finally, several years ago, took the time to sit down. I actually scheduled out, what am I doing every day that's taking up so much time? And it took me a year to clear out my schedule, to get rid of everything that was not absolutely necessary. And when I was done, all that I had left was my church choir. And the reason I kept the church choir was because I know that I need to get to Mass on Sunday for the sheer spiritual discipline aspect of it. If I am expected at church to be part of the church choir, I will be at church. But when we go on summer breaks and I'm no longer expected, it is so easy for me to fall into a sort of spiritual laziness. So I knew I had to keep the church choir so that I would keep getting my butt to church every week. Everything else was cleared out. And that's when I started, about the same time, I started looking on Amazon, on the internet for any guidance. How do you find a goal if you don't have one? I was talking with some wonderful women at work, one of whom was a former cheerleader for the Baltimore Ravens and sharp as a tack. And she gave me some really good starting points. At that point, I was extraordinarily overweight. I'm still overweight now, but I mean, dang, I was in a really bad shape at that point. And I was very lost. But if there's one thing I knew, one theme in my life that kept popping up. It was that ever since I was 10 years old and stole the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book from my dad, it was that I loved ninjas. And I know this seems silly and ridiculous right now, because it is silly and ridiculous, but in that lost place, I decided that my great cosmic goal had to be something that was theoretically possible, but will also be so unlikely and difficult to attain that it will always be dangling just in front of me. And so the goal I set for myself, starting out, was I'm going to be a ninja. Again, it seems ridiculous, but that became a sort of symbolic cosmic goal. Because then I could break that down. Well, what does it take to become a ninja? Well, you need physical fitness, you need mental prowess, you need spiritual discipline, you need to have studied damn near everything, which luckily I'm a nerd, so that's very easy. That was my first attempt, and that started getting the ball rolling. And I learned about bullet point journaling, which if you go on Pinterest or Instagram, you'll enter those terms, you will find a bunch of entries. And that is a very flexible method of journaling. And basically you create your own planner based on your individual needs. And it is a way to set up what habits do I want to get into, track those habits. What things do I want to accomplish, break it down into steps, set out those steps through the year, and track them as you go. That served me well for several years. This year, I'm changing it up a bit. I actually bought a planner offline that I saw advertised on Instagram from Dragon Tree Apothecary. It's their Rituals for a Living Dream Book and Planner. It's very girly, gentlemen. I mean, I'm sure it'll do you well too, but it's super girly. And what it does is the first 20 or 30 pages is all about sitting you down, evaluating, first of all, who you are, where you want to be in 3, 5, 10 years, and at the end of your life. And there's a wonderful 2-page spread that when you're trying to, that just works you through finding your purpose. And the first thing it does is discover, what are your core values and your core gifts? What do you value most in life? What gives you the most satisfaction? What are your gifts? What do you find yourself gravitating toward in your free time that brings fulfillment to your life? And then finding where these things overlap. That's for your purposes. What are you skilled at? What do you value? This isn't necessarily your career. The world is the way it is, and we all got to work at the salt mines. But this is, it takes you through what your vocation is in many ways. And that helps you find that big goal. And then based on that, you set out what are the things you want for your life in the next year, in the next 3 years. Break those down into projects, break those projects into steps. The nice thing about this planner is it has a weekly check-in and a quarterly check-in. And Erica was mentioning earlier, part of her problem with resolutions is you're taking an arbitrary day and this is the day I'm going to change who I am, when it should be a year-round process. And I agree with that. As I said, this planner has a quarterly check-in. You take the time to go through it, see, okay, in the past 3 months, I've accomplished this. This has worked out. This is not. Readjusting your goals, correcting your course. I would say if you're not, doing New Year's, other good times to check in and evaluate your life and your goals and your progress are your birthday. If you're married, your anniversary is a wonderful time to check in with your spouse. You should have, I think, some sort of goals for your marriage and your family. I can't speak to that directly because I'm not married, but I see what has worked in the couples that I've known that have stuck together and that have had more functional than not families. And I say that with understanding of most days. And always at the top of those lists will, be goals involving the children. But check in with your spouse, and definitely the anniversary is a prime time to do that. But like with New Year's, it shouldn't be just one day, but that is the prime day to make sure you get that one in. So certainly if you need some help finding what your goal is, figuring out how to turn your goal, whether it's something abstract and symbolic, like I want to be a ninja, or even something like I want to have a book published. I want to have this degree, or I want to start a business. Hit me or Erica up on social media. Yeah, I could talk about this all day. The other tip that I have for people is, at work, I think a lot of us have a type of work where once a week we have a meeting with our supervisor, that we have a status check-in. What's going on? What are we doing? What's the state of things? I would recommend having status meetings with someone on your life, on what's going on. And you don't have to, it doesn't need to be a business meeting where you say, here's what I did in the past week. Here's me evaluating what I did. And then here's my plan for the next week, though that helps. But have a mutual thing where you're both checking in on each other and discussing whatever challenges you met, asking questions of each other, things like that. Just have that companion. It can be your spouse. It can be your best friend. You can have more than one person. There's 2 people I call every week, or they call me, and one of them is Erica. We check in with each other. We bring each other up to date on our lives. And, Erica, if she's made any progress with her dissertation, she says, yeah, I here's what I was going over in my dissertation. I don't know much about what she's doing on her dissertation. I'm not a theologian or philosopher, but we find value in this. And I think that that's something that you can find value in as well. So that is what I had to say on goals. I think everyone should have at least one goal. Unless you are absolutely in love with your career, it should be separate from your career. You need something to keep you going, and there is something that is unique to you. There's a ton of people that can and do my job, the one that pays my mortgage. It's what I do outside of work that is unique. That's what God put me on this planet for. What Erica does in her day job, yeah, probably some other people could do it. But outside of her day job, there's something uniquely Erica about what she's to do. God put her together in a certain way to do something. It's a bit of a journey to figure out what that is. And I would say the same is true.
In New England, we call it a wicked pisser.
Yeah, there you go. It takes a good minute to figure it out, or multiple years, but just, give it some time. And if you don't have that goal, you're not going to figure it out in one thinking session. It's going to take some time. It's worth the time. I heartily recommend journaling. I heartily recommend having a planner. I know for you parents, what you put in that planner and what actually happens are 2 entirely different things. But I would also put in your planner, you not just check off when you've finished something, but if you accomplish something that you hadn't planned, go ahead and write that in and then put a check mark next to it too. And so you have that record, so that when you do have those rough days that everybody has, and you're just feeling, oh my God, I'm so worthless, I'm not getting anything done, you can crack that open and say, oh no, I'm getting stuff done. I just last week I finished putting the flooring in the kids' room. Or just the other day, I got this other thing accomplished and done. Because it's so easy for us to forget the good things, what we do accomplish, while we're obsessing and worrying over what we have not yet accomplished. So that's a good record to have, to remind yourself of what you have actually done. And I think that's all I want to say for right now. We can absolutely come back to this in the future. And as I said, hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter. One of us will respond. We love talking about this. So that's what I had to say.
Cool. Well, we're about out of time, but one thing that I thought we should bring up before we close out is one of the first things that's happened in 2020 is the Pope got mad at somebody and slapped her hand. I don't know if anybody
Man,
saw.
that was some slap too. Wow.
Yeah, he really like he was pissed. I haven't really heard a lot of reactions to this from other people yet, but I'm sure that some people are shocked.
Oh,
Um,
I've seen a bunch
yeah,
running across the spectrum, and some people are really, really upset that, look at him, he's assaulting a person. On the
Dude,
other hand, there's a lot of people rightly pointing out she grabbed him pretty damn hard,
yes.
he's a
and
human being.
yeah, and tugged, and it's just like, lady, you don't actually have a right to his person, and yeah, maybe he could have responded better in that moment, but come on. We have all had, I'm sure a lot of us have had similar experiences of someone, we're going along doing something, and heck, we may even be kind of tired because it looks like it happened sort of in the evening or at night, and someone like comes up to us and demands our attention in a way that they really don't have a right to demand. And that instinct of GTFO, yeah, maybe he could have reacted better, but on the other hand, she didn't have, she was out of line. Maybe they were
I was
both out of line. I
surprised,
don't
like she pulled him hard. I
know.
mean,
Yeah, she did.
I guess that was my thing. At first I saw the headline and I'm like, what? And then I watched the video and I was like, oh, hell no. You know, like I watched his reaction and I don't know, maybe it's the mom in me. But if my kid pulled me like that in public, are you kidding me? No, stop that. The hell do you think you're doing? No, 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 no. Ma'am, it was wrong. I'm sorry. It was wrong. And
Well,
his reaction, I think, after I watched the video, I honestly think he seemed startled to me.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. Seth, what do you think?
I mean, you bring up how you'd respond as a parent, and I sort of feel like that's how he responded. I mean, the way he slapped her hand, he didn't like hit her hard. He just slapped her like a baby. You'd slap a baby who is reaching for something, like just like two little slaps. But the point that first of all, he apologized for it today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that goes to what you were saying with like every day you can begin again. And if what he did was wrong, which, I mean, he probably could have handled it better, he apologized immediately. But the other point I want to make is that the church thinks in centuries rather than, like other people think. So if we think about what some other popes have done, like popes have killed people and popes have cut people's ears off with swords. So I feel like this isn't that big a deal. Although, I'm sure for the lady it's a big deal. Can't imagine being the lady who made the Pope so mad that he slapped her hand. Like, she's just going to have to go home and change her name and get a face. I don't know.
Seriously.
Yeah, I would be I would be like, oh, damn, my bad. You're like, yikes.
So
I don't know. I don't know. It kind of drives me, like, again, I'm sorry to go back to parenting, but I think in terms of what I teach my kids on a daily basis, and my 8-year-old has had a habit lately in a jocular, very light, joking way of touching people's faces. And this has been a serious discussion with her because it's a time in her life where she is attaching herself to different people, and even when she is doing gymnastics or whatnot, you cannot go around touching other people without their okay. Even if it's a joke, even if you are so excited to see them. So I think for me, like, watching her, lady, come on, a little freaking decorum here. I understand you're a fangirl, but that's a little far.
Yeah, and I mean, fangirl is the absolute right term. And you think about that sort of behavior with anyone else who is famous, security would have them on the ground. Like, it wouldn't be a slap on the wrist. It would be bodyguards hauling off, and you'd be on the ground, and there'd be a ton of yelling, and there might be guns taken out. And that's just for, like, Hollywood celebrities, not to mention the fact that technically the Pope is kind of the king of Rome. You know, he is a head of state. Like, it could have been so much worse than a literal slap on the wrist. Yeah, I have a lot of disagreements with this Pope, okay? I'm not gonna lie. He's not my favorite, okay? But people losing your minds over this, get over yourselves. Literally, you're looking for any reason to be angry with this guy, but you're undermining your own points of view at the same time. Because, well, if you're this upset over something so minor, then clearly all your other arguments are that petty. Deal with it. Like, he's human. We're all human. That lady's probably embarrassed to heck. I actually kind of feel a little bit bad for her, because it's not like I've never been awkward and done stupid shit in public. Right? I mean, why is Christine an introvert and shy and has mild social anxiety? Because I am the inverse of that lady. I always foresee, well, if I call out to the guy whose face I recognize and I bother him, but he's just going about his day, well, then that's really rude, so I won't. So I'll just be quiet and stay here in the corner. But I get it. Like, lady, you embarrassed yourself, but it's okay, honey. We've all been there. You know. If it was Chris Evans, I might have lost my mind. I'm just saying. Captain America! You know, or Sebastian Stan. Bucky! You know, I get it. I get being a fangirl. We all have our moments. We all make mistakes. And of all the things the internet could be losing its mind over, this is really just not on the list for me.
I think it's also not something he's used to. You know, you bring up an interesting point. If you did that to Chris Evans, or, you know, for me, it wouldn't be Chris Evans. But if you did that to Chris Evans, I would bet he'd be a lot more used to it than Pope Francis. You know, people that not that people don't grab at him, but I'm just wondering if maybe he's not used to that much aggression. But I could be entirely wrong about that. I've never watched the video of his crowds or anything. So more of a pondering moment from me.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, so I guess to wrap this up, Erica, just wanted to say thank you to Christine and Seth. I'm so excited to be here in a new year with them. So
Yes.
I have no idea. They are my besties, their family. So this is really nice for me and important, I think, for all of us. But you, our listeners, are why we are here also, and maybe the main point of why we were here, because we like having these discussions available for you. So if you want to share what we do here with a friend, that would be awesome. Maybe you know somebody who's interested in our wide variety of discussions that we gab about. And if you have any suggestions of things you would like us to talk about, we're open to that too. Just give us a holler on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook. We're on all of them. Like, share. What's the last one? What am I missing?
Like, share, and subscribe.
Subscribe.
We don't have well, I guess in YouTube, when I catch up with the videos, you can set the notifications for that. Yeah, like, absolutely, you know, subscribe.
We're on there.
Share us around. And we are making plans for the coming year. Like, we're in this, people. We love it. But if, as Erica says, if there's anything you'd ever want us to look into addressing or talking about, you have subject ideas, yeah, give us a note, give us a holler. Hopefully by now you've realized there's very little we won't talk about. So
we'll talk about anything, really.
Yeah.
Also, our episodes coming up to look forward to, we are going to be talking about some of our favorite literature. And we're not sure what exactly that involves yet. Maybe theological literature, or maybe somebody will go absolutely batshit crazy and come up with something else. I will probably come up with something R-rated. And after that, I think we are... Shut up, Christine. After that, I think we're going to start delving at least our first episode into the topic of death. So that'll be very interesting too. And for me, it is a very not just hard emotionally subject, cerebrally, it's a hard subject to wrap my head around. So, anything else, friendly friends?
I'm good. Happy New Year,
Yep.
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy New Decade.